Thanks, Charles, for letting me use your gardening supplies. I'll make sure I put it back in the garage. Man, tending to that lawn is a lot of work.
Tell you the truth, Jim, I'm more concerned about keeping this house.
What's going on?
Well, you know, Sarah lost her job 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Since we lost that income, the bills have been piling up, and we're so far behind. I don't want to lose the house because of back taxes. I don't know what to do.
I understand. The same thing happened to my sister and her husband when he lost his job. Do you know that the Wayne County Treasurer has plans and programs to help people stay in their homes?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, go to www.treasure.waynecounty.com to see if you qualify.
What's that site again?
www.treasure.waynecounty.com.
Got it.
Well,
We're
good
here
morning,
to help.
everybody.
We're here to help.
I love that commercial. That was nice.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Well,
They
good
do
morning, everybody,
commercials.
and welcome to another episode of The Week That Was. My name is Saeed Khan, and as you can tell, everybody really loved that commercial. So, for those of you, contact the Treasurer's office at Wayne County whenever you get the chance. I think we got a little bit of feedback.
We've got echoes. Somebody's. Let me see.
Bill, that might be you if you've got the live streaming on.
Yeah. All right.
You take care of it?
Yep.
I
There
think
we
so.
go.
Yeah,
All right.
excellent. Okay. Well, we are joined as always with a great group of people here who, by the way, don't let the rumor fool you. They're not here as an alibi because they're going sign stealing later for Michigan football. I know you wouldn't, Allan. I mean, you know, you're from Michigan State, but all right. So we have again our usual troika of lawyers. We have Joel Sklar, we have Bill Seikaly, and we've got Steve Fishman. We have labor and community activist Barb Ingalls, veteran journalist Nancy Derringer, and of course, co-founder of Deadline Detroit, Allan Lengel. So another week, and unfortunately, an intensification of yes, Nancy.
I just have to say, as the word person, I really appreciate you choosing a word like troika, which is one of my favorites. So there you go. How many people know what a troika is, other than it has something to do with the name with three? A literal troika? Anyone? Okay. Seikaly does. So that's it? Okay. It's the three horses abreast hitch that you see in Russian cartoons, usually running madly ahead of a wolf that's like pursuing, but I think you see it in Dr. Zhivago, and it's like unique to Russia. And so when anytime a communist leader wants to talk about somebody who comes in a group of three, will say that, you know, the corrupt troika of the United States, Great Britain, and Sri Lanka or something like that. And I just always like that word. It's a great word.
Well, I mean, it is more succinct than saying axis of evil.
Yeah.
So,
or just saying trio. You know, trio is fine. You can say trio of lawyers.
Sounds like jazz.
Doesn't sound as happy.
Troika gives it that kind of running dog, Chairman Mao, Fidel Castro feel to it. So
Nancy, what's the most famous troika that you know?
Can't name one off the top of my head. Why? Do you have one?
Yes, it's called Paris troika.
Okay. With that, it's now officially Friday. So
that wasn't just bad. That was so bad. Okay, Tavarish, let's get going then. So, another week, and unfortunately, we're still in the situation regarding Gaza. Things seem to be intensifying. As of this week, we saw quite a bit of intensification of the ground offensive, bombings of refugee camps, and it seems even some UN schools. Anthony Blinken, U.S. Secretary of State, has flown to Israel to, according to the State Department, move toward concrete steps for some kind of a pause. I'm not sure if that's what that exactly means. Hezbollah head Hassan Nasrallah issued a statement which some suggest may intensify the conflict and spread it to Lebanon as well. A lot going on with the situation. Anyone want to give their thoughts?
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's I think it's, it's just crazy. I mean, it's just I mean, so much crazy violence. I was talking to some people yesterday in Israel, a couple friends, and one of my cousins, and my cousin lives up in the north. She's very progressive, very liberal. She's an artist. She lost her son in '93 in southern Lebanon. He was a soldier, and so she says, we don't have anything against the Palestinians. We need to deal with that. We need to resolve that issue. But she said, we can't live with Hamas. And she said, war is horrible. I don't know. She says, I don't know what else to do, but war is horrible. And there's no good. Nobody wins in war. So, Bill, I see Bill.
Yeah, this is difficult for me because my family, half my family's pure Palestinian. I'm married to a Jewish woman, so half my family's Jewish. I've got Jewish members of my family who don't live in Jewish communities who are saying to their wives, you might want to tuck that Star of David in. This has become awful. But we've got people on Facebook, friends of mine, who are posting things saying, the Palestinians don't really exist. They're not really a people. This has gotten nuts. We have no empathy for one another. We've all kind of become, as a society, I think, narcissistic. We live in our own little world. Nobody's very empathetic about what's going on anyplace else or to the other side. Look, war is hell. We want to eliminate Hamas. Easy. That's real easy to say. What you're doing is creating more terrorists. And look, a terrorist is based on who won, right? When the Zionists blew up the King David Hotel in 47 or 48, they were considered terrorists until they had their own state. Then they were patriots. But what's going on there is not going to solve the problem. It's not going. Anybody who thinks that going in and leveling Gaza and killing all these people is going to solve this problem is whistling past the graveyard. And somebody needs to say that. Somebody needs to stand up and say, the Jews need to stand up and say, we can't do this to the Palestinians. The Palestinians have got to stand up and say, we can't do this to the Israelis. It's not right.
Steve,
there are no voices.
I think that's what happened when you had the Camp David Accords. I think there was recognition by both sides that exactly what Bill just said is accurate. That you're not going to be able to eliminate the state of Israel from the Palestinian side, and you're not going to be able to eliminate all Palestinians in any conversation about it. And I said it last week, the killing of Yitzhak Rabin changed everything because he was a person who had authority in the state of Israel because of his background in the military. And we have to keep in mind, it was none other than Bibi Netanyahu that gave speeches that encouraged a guy like Yigal Amir to do what he did. And I agree with everybody who has said right now, you look at it and you say, what the hell are we going to do? But a lot of it rested at the feet. A lot of it rested at the feet of Netanyahu and his crowd. All of this stuff that started when they decided they're going to change the country into an Orthodox settler-based community, laid the foundation and set the stage for this. They'll have to answer for it eventually, but we've talked about this 10 times. Is anybody thinking about the day after? I think it's insane to pretend that somehow if you killed every Hamasnik, that somebody's going to come in from outside and take over Gaza. I just think that's insane. And if you don't have a plan as to who you're going to work with or what you're going to do, it's just destined for not just failure, but for abject failure that results in the death of an awful lot of innocent people.
Alan, go ahead.
I agree with I agree with these guys. I mean, first of all, Netanyahu has got to go. I'd be shocked if he survives this politically. And and he's the more moderate among his crazy cabinet members who are just rabid, crazy, racist, just poking in the eye. I mean, he's just done so much damage to the country and so much damage to the region. He's got to go. And you're right. You can't look. Israel in '82 went up to Beirut, East Beirut, to get rid of the PLO, and they spread them around. But you don't get rid of a movement just because you eliminate some of the head people there. The question that concerns me, and here I want to play this little video of here's a Hamas speaker, is this just rhetoric, or has this been Hamas's credo? And so here it is.
إسرائيل دولة لا مقام لها على أرضنا. إحنا الدولة لابد أن نزيلها لأنه بالفعل هي تعتبر كارثة أمنية وعسكرية وسياسية للأمة العربية والإسلامية، يجب أن تنتهي. لذلك احنا لا نخجل من نقول ذلك بكل قوة، إنه إسرائيل لازم نأدبها، وحنأدبها مرة ثانية وثالثة، ومش هذا حتكون طوفان الأقصى أول مرة، لا حتكون ثانية وثالثة ورابعة، لأنه احنا لدينا إصرار ولدينا قرار ولدينا إمكانيات أن نقاتل نعم. ونحارب. لكن كما قلت لك بدنا ندفع ثمن. نعم احنا مستعدين. معلش بدي أقول لك بشكل واضح، احنا اسمنا شعب الشهداء وبنفخر أنه.
Wow.
And so you have that other side as well, and where when we're talking about a ceasefire, what does that mean? And maybe I don't know where do we go from here? I guess the question the Israelis ask, these people came in, the Hamas terrorists came in and just set people on fire and beheaded people and shot family members and shot their dogs and cats and every other pet. And so how do you react to that? It's like
one way, Alan, is that they've now killed 10-1.
Yeah.
10-1. As many children, more children,
right,
than were killed by Hamas. So, and that's candidly the problem. But you know what this clown just said, what the tape you just played? Have you read anything that the finance minister, who's a member of the defense ministry in Israel, has said?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he wants to wipe these people off. He wants to wipe the Palestinians off the planet.
Well, that's the Netanyahu, the whole administration.
No, he's worse than Netanyahu.
No, I'm saying all
right.
these guys are all
come from
the whole Netanyahu administration is fucking crazy. It's the same people that we see with McCarthy.
They're also in charge.
They're
also making the policy decisions that got us here.
Is that the guy who
the military decisions that prevent? Look, you tell 1.2 million people you better leave or you're going to be considered an enemy combatant.
Yeah.
When there's no place to go, and the place you're telling them to go, you're bombing that too. There's nothing rational about this. Look, I don't defend what happened in Israel. I don't defend what Hamas did, but there's no relationship. It didn't just happen in a vacuum.
But it kind of, it all begs the question of an intractable problem that seems to be going on forever. It's going on and it's going to keep going on. I don't, we're both frustrated. Everybody here is frustrated. Mm-hmm. The manifestations of this locally have been awful. My son's going to Carnegie Mellon University. He's been called all sorts of, he's never been a target of anti-Semitism till now. And it scares the hell out of me. And until we evolve to a place where words do matter and peace is a priority and we don't fucking hate each other, then we can talk peace. But right now we're talking at each other. Nothing is going to change.
And Joel, you couldn't be more right.
Yeah,
you couldn't be more right. The problem is we can't just put it in this context. This is not just a problem of the Israeli-Palestinian crisis. This is a problem of the American crisis. It is a problem of
a global crisis.
And this nationalistic fervor that we feel, and it's us or you. And if we don't knock it off,
And the question
will
is,
manage to eliminate one another.
how do we
Will
not?
manage to push this into a nuclear holocaust.
No, I think that may be true. And the question is how? How do we stop it? How do we stop the momentum that's been picking up steam? It's going to continue. And I'm not sure we can. I'm not sure there is an answer other than this constant destruction of each other's peoples until people acknowledge the right to exist of Palestinians and of Israelis and to coexist. And we are so far from that based on
Nancy.
I was just going to say, is that the same guy in that video who walked out of the BBC interview last week?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. That thing on his forehead, is that his prayer bruise, or is that
that's most likely a prayer bruise.
Prayer bruise. Okay. All right. So that tells me that he's an extremely devout Muslim. This is not a secular thing too, right?
Or that he prays on, hard surfaces.
Supposed to use a rug, aren't you?
Well,
it's interesting. I think we played the video last where he's in the BBC interview.
Right,
and
yeah,
he says,
that's what
we didn't go
asked.
after civilians. Yeah, we didn't go after civilians. And there was another guy who early on, Hamas speaker, who was telling the TV interviewer, said, no, we didn't kill civilians. And the guy's like, it was Sky News, and a British guy, and he goes, what about all the people in the concerts? And he goes, oh, Israeli propaganda. I mean, the one thing I'll say, they are not very sophisticated when dealing with the TV. And I think they're not used to dealing with the Western press. And they're coming off as not very, they need a little bit of a lesson there.
Shocking as though this might be, Alan. I think Saatchi and Saatchi refused to represent them. So that might have something to do with it regarding the PR. Well, look, here. Yeah, go ahead, Steve. Yeah.
Well, that guy, the Hamas guy that we saw, how different is he from the guy from the government that says we're going to kill every single Palestinian there is?
Right.
The only difference is
they're mirror images.
They're mirror images, and until people like them are not spokespeople for the groups, for the Palestinians or the Israelis, we're going to get nowhere. That's basically what we're all saying.
Right.
Those kind of guys are not going to be people you're looking to be spokespeople, because you can hear what they're talking about.
So picking up, Joel, with what you were saying, and I hope to God your son is safe at CMU. Cornell canceled classes today because of anti-Semitic threats. Interestingly enough, they were committed by a Chinese American, 21 years old. There you see examples of white nationalists, white supremacists protesting in front of the White House, saying no white blood for a Jewish state, make Israel Palestine again. Again, these are all by white supremacists. Yeah, Alan.
In 2006, when I was at the Washington Post on a Saturday, they sent me, and I told them, I said, you sure you want to send me? My parents are Holocaust survivors. They're like, no, go ahead. There was a neo-Nazi rally in front of the Israeli embassy claiming to be protesting on behalf of the Palestinians. And there were counter protesters, including Palestinians, who were like, no, we don't want you to speak. And they were chanting like, freedom for Palestine, a rope for every Finkelstein.
Whoa!
I tried to get that in the story, and my editor's like, no, that's too inflammatory. I said, inflammatory? You sent me to a Nazi rally. And that's what do you expect?
The good news is there aren't many Finkelsteins. So
yeah.
And by the way, Alan, just for accuracy, they were neo-Nazis. They were not paleo-Nazis. So, make sure,
it was interesting. I interviewed the head Nazi. I'm like, how's it going today? He goes, pretty good. We're getting some good publicity here.
It's good to be a Nazi.
Like, glad to help.
It's a good day to be a Nazi.
Yeah.
So in the U.S. Congress yesterday, the House passed a Israel standalone funding bill, which was, with very few exceptions, denounced, or it was voted no by most of the Democratic caucus. There seems to be little to no chance of it passing the Senate, and President Biden has said that he will veto the bill. And I think ostensibly this is because it doesn't include funding for Ukraine.
Well, not just that, Saeed. I mean, it also takes the money from the IRS. To fund this, because Lord knows we don't want to go after rich people who are ducking their taxes.
Right, and we want to do it under the fig leaf of being concerned about, the debt. So that's this speaker is going to be. I'm without words. I mean, this whole Republican Congress is. I just hope they get smacked down next election. So.
Isn't the real question? It's not the speaker. We know what he is. I remember saying last week he was a despicable bigot of the highest order. That was a quote from one of the other Congress people. But they voted. That means that all the Republicans voted for that. There were 9 Democrats, I think, that voted along with them. So for all of the so-called moderate Republicans, the ones who want to do things a little differently, they voted for that.
They all suck.
Think about that.
No such thing.
Yeah, they all suck.
It's interesting. The Republicans only know one way to cut, but there's ways to raise revenue. One, to be go after the IRS money. And also there's so many there's Medicare fraud, which is if they would just hire more investigators, they would bring in hundreds of millions of dollars in savings and stuff like that. They don't get it. They just don't. They just are clueless.
They get it very well.
Yeah. They
get it very well. That's what they want is to leave their people alone. It's take it all from us, but take it from my Social Security, take it from your Social Security, take it from all these other places, but don't touch the wealthy. So they know exactly what they're doing, and they don't care if they're clownish if they get their way.
Right.
By the way, I was going to say I wanted to play this one little tape about the Israeli Arabs. It's an interesting part of the story that we haven't really seen much of.
The Israeli city of Ramla, Arabs and Jews have been living, working, and raising families on the same land for centuries. Yusuf El-Shamli, a grandfather and one of Israel's Arab citizens, says his family has been here for 80 years. But these days, Yusuf fears if he says one word about the suffering of Arabs in Gaza, the Shin Bet, Israel's internal security service, will arrest him. I ask him how it feels to be an Arab in Israel during a war. He says, we Arabs in Israel are like a divorced couple. The kids don't know where to go, to mom or to dad. We're in the middle. Since the Israel-Gaza war started, human rights groups say hundreds of Arabs have been fired, suspended from universities, or even arrested, accused of supporting terror or sympathizing with Hamas, mostly on social media. Israel's police chief has declared zero tolerance for inciting violence and pro-Hamas protests, saying on TikTok, anyone who wants to identify with Gaza, go ahead. I'll put them on buses and send them there.
Anyways, I just thought that was an interesting little aspect that we don't really see much about.
Well, I mean, you see other kind of ancillary consequences. The so-called Abraham Accords that were the hallmark of Trump's foreign policy in the region is a little bit fragmented. Bahrain, one of the countries in 2020 that formalized diplomatic relations with Israel, recalled its ambassador and said that we're suspending economic ties. The government of Bolivia has actually ended diplomatic relations with Israel, and apparently they've also banned McDonald's in Bolivia. So there you go with that. Well, speaking of Donald Trump, it looks like the Big Apple beckons.
What a transition!
Thank you. And also, actually, his progeny, the Trump kids taking the stand. And Allan, I know you have a video for this.
Republican of the day, Donald Trump's sons took the stand in the $250 million fraud case against their family business today. There they are, the Stinklevoss twins, rolling into the courthouse, looking pretty cool. I haven't seen a more likable set of brothers on trial since the Menendez boys. I don't know about you. It's quite a day, and say what you want about these guys. The camera loves them.
This is the defendant, Don Jr. He's here to show his father that he's a man who can ride the subway all by himself. He's accused of real estate fraud and hunting house cats without a license. This is also the defendant, Eric. He claims his family is allowed to break the law because his daddy's name is on buildings. He's accused of real estate fraud and eating glue. what you are witnessing is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual idiots with a case pending in a New York Metropolitan Area Court. The People's Court.
That is great.
Well, I don't know if you've been keeping up with the case, but it seems as though, well, first of all, Donald Jr. just kept denying. He's like, I have no recollection. I mean, typical duck and weave. But it seems as though Eric Trump may have actually blown the whole case for Daddy and everybody else.
He is the dumbest Trump.
He's pretty much the dumbest Trump. He said that after testifying that, quote, he'd never heard about the Trump Organization's statement of financial condition until recently, he then later admitted that he knew about it 10 years ago. After saying he never worked on it, he was shown an email where employees were told he was working on it. Wowzer. Fish, are you going to bail him out?
I think that the people to talk about this are Joel and Bill, because they do civil stuff. Because from what I read, I understand that they confronted, I think, at least Eric Trump with deposition testimony, which is exactly what these guys do and why they do it. They get him to give answers at depositions. Then they just sit and wait for a guy, an idiot like Eric Trump, to get up and say something like, I don't recall, or absolutely denies something, so they can show them the transcript or read to them from the transcript. And that's what I think you guys do for a living, correct?
Yeah, did you lie then? You lie now. Yeah,
I tell you, I have been, not since the OJ trial have I been so enthralled by testimony that I'm watching on television. I am just amazed. I don't know what offers have been made in this case, but this is a case that if you're a civil defense attorney dealing with this, you want this case resolved, because what's going to happen here is likely to be very bad.
Well, Steve, the reason I was bringing you into this is because there might be a possible perjury charge given the way that Eric's rolling.
Well, it is amazing. Steve, have you ever seen a perjury charge come out of a civil litigation?
Never out of civil litigation, but I've had a couple people charged with perjury, including one Chris Webber to begin with before the case was resolved. But perjury it's a difficult case to bring. Generally, I find that United States attorneys' offices are reluctant to bring them because the standards, I won't bore anybody with the legalese, but it's difficult to prove. And it's too easy for a guy to say, well, I forgot, or I screwed up, or something like that. You really got to, Trump's defense would be the simplest. Look, I'm an idiot. What do you expect from me?
Might not be lying.
I can't remember what I did yesterday. I'm a fool. Look at my grades.
He really might not be lying at all.
Steve, I don't think I say this often enough. I love you.
In depositions, what you usually tell your client is just tell the truth in civil cases. It's your credibility that means everything. You listen, you answer, and you tell the truth. But I don't think that's the instructions that are being given, or the understanding that Eric have and his wonderful brother, Junior have. They're not following those golden rules, which is just tell the truth. If you tell it the first time, you're going to tell it 10 years from now too. The truth is the truth. It's not going to change for you. When you lie and you become evasive, it becomes painfully apparent, and it angers people. My guess is the judge is pissed off more now than he was the day before. And so I think these guys are going to get popped huge. And I don't think that the defense lawyers want a settlement because this is some sort of bizarre, this isn't a bizarro world for Trump. I'm not sure, how he uses the courts and what his lawyers are doing. There's no desire to resolve. There's a desire to become bizarre martyrdom. And this guy's not worthy of being a martyr. I mean, it's a bizarro world that we're in right now, especially in that New York courthouse.
So Michael Seikaly is asking, does Trump's report card have an F that was sharpied into an A?
At least a B.
Bill, who is this witty person?
He happens to be my son. I'm proud to say.
All right. Well, thank you for listening in on and tuning in, oh scion of Bill, on this. Keeping it on the Trump subject, it looks like Donald Sr. is suing in the state of Michigan to ensure that his name will appear on the 2024 Michigan ballot. I think that the easiest way for him to ensure that is to simply buy the ballot company and make sure it says Trump ballots. But short of that, where's this case going?
Well, actually, again, this is, Joel talked about what you tell your clients, you tell them to tell the truth. The only problem with that in the Trump case is these guys don't listen to their lawyers.
Right.
This was a dumb move. And the reason it was a dumb move, it's likely to get consolidated with the other case, trying to get them off the ballot.
Mhm.
And there's likely to be an evidentiary hearing on whether or not Trump participated in a rebellion against the United States. And if so, then the 14th Amendment would apply. Benson has no ability to make the decision on her own, in my opinion, and in her opinion. So being silent would have been the smart move here in terms of litigation. They're incapable.
Yeah, there was I heard another radio show yesterday about this, or at least part of it. I was coming back from work, and they were interviewing Mark Brewer. This was Stephen Henderson's show on WDET, and Mark Brewer, of course, has forgotten more about election law than the rest of us will ever know. And he was saying this is not Benson's call to make. This is a court's call to make. But he laid out a very good case. He said, this is exactly what the 14th Amendment is talking about. He led he tried to lead a mob down to the Capitol, and he wasn't able to lead them because the Secret Service wouldn't allow him, but he certainly sent them down there with their marching orders, literally, and that's what they did. So I don't know. It makes me very uncomfortable, though, the idea that this guy who is the obvious overwhelming choice of the Republican Party could be kept off the ballot by one court case. But, shit, it's like, let's follow the law.
But there's also the possibility that his acolytes in the Michigan GOP might try to get rid of the chair. It looks like there's a petition circulating right now to see if Chair Kristina Karamo can be shown the exits.
Are these the Trump supporters?
Please keep her.
Yeah, I thought she was one of the Trump acolytes. I mean,
she definitely is an acolyte, but she's also so bad at her job that that the party has just had it up to her here with her. I mean, she said something like, this thing they had in September with the Jesus actor and Vivek Ramaswamy and the other D-listers. She said, well, we'd hoped that would be a big fundraiser, and unfortunately it didn't happen. So.
Look, I agree with Barb. I hope they keep her.
I do too. I mean, my
life will be so empty without her.
It's the old art of war thing, when your enemy is destroying himself, don't interfere, but there you go.
It's a hard thing to teach a young lawyer, but boy, as you get older, you realize that when the defense attorney's screwing up, sit down and shut up. Can't make an objection.
Don't get in the way.
Well, that's what happened. That's what happened in the New York fraud case. The attorneys keep going after the judge's clerk. And he keeps them not just with Trump himself, who's I think been fined twice, but I think that the attorneys are in real danger of being held in contempt. Mm-hmm. So that could make for some really interesting stuff. And by the way, we're not.
Saeed, do you see this tear coming down for them? No, it doesn't exist.
Well, there's also, of course, the other Trumpette. We're talking about Ivanka Trump, who, gotta love the chutzpah on this one. She was seeking a delay from testifying in the case because of undue hardship caused by the fact that her having to go to New York to testify comes in the middle of a school week. I believe that keeping kosher means no nannies or governesses as well. But it seems as though the judge in that case said, "Ha, nice try. You can even bring your Ivanka and Jared spawn with you, I'm supposed. I'm sure there must be a side room that they can go run around.
It's a field trip. Yeah. So there.
It's a field trip to see where granddad is going to lose.
Right. It might be their only chance to see their granddad.
He's a winner. She does have a place to stay, doesn't she? Doesn't her dad own a 30,000 or 1,000?
Maybe not for long. I think to borrow from Prince, this could be the tower formerly known as Trump. So
Mary Trump,
ex-Trump Tower.
Say Mary Trump thinks that Ivana is going to throw him under the bus. She thinks she is going to turn him in. Just get out of trouble as fast as she can. And if her dad goes down on her brothers, she doesn't seem to care. And I think that's interesting. But the Trump family doesn't
stick
seem
together
to know
like shit on a shoe. I don't think this is
Barb.
going to. This is going to happen.
Barb, are you trying to say she's going to tell the truth?
It could happen. Anything can happen, right?
Isn't it the Trump way that you're the only person that counts?
That's all
everybody's out for themselves. Isn't that what it is? There's no loyalty. There's no goodwill.
It's Mary Trump's line.
Right. You're not going to take a bullet for anybody else because you're a sucker if you do.
Yeah.
That ain't going to happen.
I'm working the election on Tuesday, and I'm going to be counting ballots from like 6:15 in the morning till 8 at night. And I don't want anything to happen because you can't have any electronics. You can't have I can't have my smartwatch or anything like that.
Are you, Barb? Where are you working?
In Oakland County in Pontiac.
Oh, in Oakland County. Okay, because I was going to say they when I was I was a precinct worker and we could keep our phones, but when I was a challenger, I noticed that they had their phones with them, but they couldn't look at them unless they were on a break. And
they wouldn't even let us. I've done this 4 times now, and they wouldn't even let us go to our cars and check things out during the break.
Huh. Okay.
Like you could only go so far into they lock it down. They take it very seriously.
Yeah.
So I'm going to buy a copy of Heather Cox Richardson's book, and I'm just going to sit there with it up in the air when I'm not actually working.
Hey, Barb, if I were to go ahead and 3D print you a Melissa Carone mask, would you wear it?
I almost went out for her on Halloween, but no.
Oh my goodness. Well, listen, Barb, while we got you, I suppose somehow the other, absent the negotiator in chief that is Donald Trump, it looks like the UAW has made deals with Ford and General Motors.
And Stellantis, we are so relieved and happy. I mean, and the rank and file still have to vote on this, right? This isn't done, but I'm real critical. I would vote for this in a heartbeat. This is a better deal than anybody could get. And it's making Toyota is raising wages. Across the board, the wages are going to go up because they're so terrified right now of Sean Fain. I think it's fantastic. So now we just have to take care of Blue Cross Blue Shield in Michigan and the casino workers, who I think are having the hardest time because gamblers are just walking through. They don't care about anything but losing their money.
Huh.
So the fact that Toyota said that they're raising wages and the other announcement that a 2024 Corolla is going for $200,000 retail now are not connected.
They're not connected at all. Nope.
Okay, all right. I'm glad they're not passing the increase in price to the consumer. So,
we know
thank
where
you.
that money is going, but it's not
Ooh.
to.
I'll tell you, I want to predict that Sean Fain will go down as one of the icons of the American labor movement.
Yep.
He is amazing.
As long as he stays out of trouble, like some of the past recent presidents.
I don't know. You know, Jimmy Hoffa got in a little trouble. He's still considered an icon of
Walter Reuther kicked out all the lefties, but he's still considered an icon.
Yeah.
He's going to
Alan,
hopefully. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Barb.
I'm after we get done today, I am off to a fundraiser in Warren, and we're raising money and goods and stuff for the Blue Cross Blue Shield workers. It's like we're gonna be there until 9:00 tonight. Another marathon.
What's going on with that? What's going on with that strike with Blue Cross Blue Shield?
You know, they have really the same issues as the auto plants. They have a tier system. And they're really locking people in. I met a guy who has worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield in Grand Rapids for 28 years, and he's still not the top tier.
Oh my God!
Wow,
it's just ridiculous.
The Shonda.
It's really sick, and so we're really hoping, and he's going to focus on it. But we think Sean's going to be at the fundraiser today.
Barb, can you tell us where the fundraiser is or how we can find it online?
It is. It's at Local 160 in Warren. It's on Lorna Road. Hang on a second here. I got Billy Bragg to wear a UAW hat, and so
wow, I love Billy Bragg.
Billy, he wrote me and he said I need a hat, and so I said only if you take a picture, and he did.
Wow.
He is. That's
all right.
Thanks
for making me envious there, Barb. I mean,
Come to the
just
show
throw
next
it.
time. Come to the show next time. I'm telling you.
When's he coming?
He's not going to be here until probably late next year. All right. UAW Local 160, and that's 28504 Lorna Avenue in Warren. They represent the tech center, the over there in Warren, the big one. But they have a nice union hall, and they're lovely people. So they're letting us do this. So we're going to be there all day. Spaghetti dinner, all you can eat, veg and meat, and cakes. And I hear there's going to be beer, but that's not legal, so there probably won't.
Saeed, I just want to, for those of you who aren't sure what the calendar date is, I just want to play this real quick.
Can you believe it's already November?
Can you believe that? Already November. It's already November. Can you believe it?
Can you believe it? Already November 1st.
November 1st. Can you believe it's already November 1st?
Yes. November 1st. Can you believe it? November 1st. Can you believe it?
November 1st. Can you believe it?
November 1st. Can you believe it?
Can you believe it? It's already November.
It's October, and there we are.
It just snuck up on us. It was October, so it's November.
As Dickens would say, it was the epoch of incredulity. Yes.
Another great clip.
Okay, on a bit of a serious note, yesterday there was the release of the Oxford High School shooting report, which I suppose probably doesn't come as much of a surprise as to some of the findings. It seems as though a lot of the focus was on missed opportunities and missed locations for intervention on it. Any thoughts on the report and what will be the implications of it? Yeah, Bill.
Yeah, I've got to be a little careful here because I represent two former Oxford school board members who almost exactly a year ago, I think 11 months ago, had a news conference. And if you go back and download that news conference and what they said, and then you download this report and look at what it says, you'll see that they match almost identically. I mean, Tom, a little shout out if I could. Tom and Corey, Tom Donnelly and Corey Bailey, in my opinion, were heroes. They stepped down from the board because they couldn't handle this. They were threatened with lawsuits if they revealed what they knew, and we walked them through the process to be as careful as they could so they didn't violate any attorney-client privilege or the Closed Meeting Act. Or the Open Meeting Act's closed session rules. And but what this report says was known within days of the events. And yet the civil case was dismissed because of governmental immunity, because the attorneys supposedly couldn't show deliberate indifference. Well, deliberate indifference and this systemic failure, if you look at the definitions of those two, get very close to one another. So I think that the question here is, who sold to the board the bill of goods that what we ought to do is go out and say we did nothing wrong? This was just, good faith decisions that went awry, because clearly that's not what the report says.
I guess it was counsel who,
you see, I couldn't say that, but that's not a bad guess.
To do that, but I read their report, and what was most evocative was the descriptions of what some of the kids did. Tate Meyer was a hero, and it is the saddest, just sad to see how he died, how the teacher knelt next to him and told him that she loved him and to hang on. Those facts are gut wrenching. The failures that occurred are clear. Government immunity does what it says it does. It makes makes entities immune. I thought there was a case in the district court that the Sixth Circuit had found that the state-created danger doctrine may allow for a 14th Amendment claim. I hope they do. The loss that these parents suffered, these students suffered, this community suffered, the state suffered, and the fucking nation suffered is incomprehensible.
But in my humble opinion, Joel, it's made worse by the fact that nobody stood up and said, mistakes were made, we're sorry,
Right.
we apologize, and here's what the mistakes were. The tragedy, the torture of these parents were made worse by the BS that was perpetuated during the civil litigation that, honest mistakes maybe, but just mistakes. There was no systematic failure. There was nothing wrong with anything that we did. We complied with all the rules, which is nonsense. That's not what the report shows.
Nancy.
I was struck by the parts that talked about the gun culture of Oxford. And Saeed, you grew up in more, or at least some of your upbringing was in Lapeer, which is just north of Oxford. And I was struck by this one quote in here, which is a little unclear, but I think I know what this guy is saying, where it says, according to the report, Fine testified, Pam Fine is the anti-bullying coordinator. We have students who, on homecoming, our girls are holding a semi-automatic rifle. Now, what I took from that to mean is that the standard homecoming pictures that every kid takes on homecoming and their parents post on Facebook, and it's like, you know, my little girl is all grown up, is that the kids are, or at least their parents or somebody is taking on this habit of the Lauren Boeberts, of this lunatic down in Nashville, of these right-wing politicians who love to send out Christmas cards with or holiday cards with the entire family standing in front of the tree, everybody holding their own favorite firearm. And I took that to mean when he says, on homecoming, our girls are holding a semi-automatic rifle. Now, obviously, they're not taking it to the dance because it wouldn't be allowed, but they will stand in front of a camera with it in their dresses. And that is some sick shit. I mean, I'm just appalled by, I mean, who thinks to do that? You know, you look so great in your dress and your corsage. Hey, you know what we need to do? Let's get the AR-15 and really make it a great picture. I mean, that is a diseased community. If that
from a risk analysis point of view, in my opinion, it makes it's very problematic, because what that quote and their position is look, it was a gun culture. This was nothing unusual. Therefore, we didn't have to worry about a risk.
Right.
In fact, if you have that kind of gun culture, it ought to raise the level of concern, not decrease the level of concern.
And the people who talk about this, and I just see we just got a comment on there. I can see it coming up. Bob. A lot of the people who talk about this as though it's related to hunting somehow are also full of shit, because nobody goes deer hunting with a fucking AR. Okay, you go deer hunting with a deer rifle or a shotgun or whatever. I mean, these are people who see guns as erotic objects, and that
and a shotgun under the M46 line, Bay City line, just in case.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you were raised in Lapeer, weren't you? So, I mean, you know, it's just wrong, and I don't get it. You know what? Why are these? You know, I've been to Oxford. It's the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's the one I had to cover a story up there. I had to drive on dirt roads to get there, and it's, you know, people aren't. This isn't a high crime area. Why does everybody have to be armed to the teeth? I don't get it.
Barb, you know, I live in Royal Oak, and which has become more and more liberal over the years. When I first moved here, this was a very Republican city. It was very Brooks Patterson-y Republican, and we've had a couple elections that have been really very, very controversial for here, and it's become more progressive. And interestingly, the people that have been losing the elections moved to Oxford.
Yeah,
they moved to Oxford, and they moved there because you get all the little small town feeling that they feel is leaving Royal Oak every time a condo is built. And that's where they're going, and they can do whatever they want. They can drive as fast as they want. They can run around with AR-15s in their hands. They can do all these things. And I just think, and it's really too bad because I know some nice people in Oxford, and they're like, oh my God. But that's where they're going.
Well, I mean, getting back to Nancy, you're asking me about growing up in Lapeer. I mean, 40 years ago, I can tell you what gun culture was there. It was that you took hunter's safety and you went hunting, and you wish that the school district, like they do up north, made November the 15th a day off,
right?
So that you could go ahead and hunt, and you ate what you hunted, and this was sort of the ethos. A lot has changed in the last 40 years when the NRA no longer is seen primarily as a source for learning and for being safe, to being a lobby which traffics in, one could argue, extremist attitudes about guns and hyper-libertarianism as
paranoia
as the conceit, and paranoia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what it is. I mean, you know, I used to go hunting with my dad all the time, and the very idea of looking at that awesome weapon of destruction is you had a respect for it, you had a veneration, you had a fear of it. I don't know anybody in going through high school who ever talked about guns except the day that John Lennon died.
Oh, really?
That's
interesting.
Yeah, and only then, because that's how he died.
Right.
And they were just completely revulsed about the idea. So a lot's changed in the 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have Michael Seikaly has a comment. I'm starting to realize we have the wrong Seikaly on the show.
The gun control issue cannot be solved democratically. Their sale must be banned for the general public. Anyone who carries a gun for work needs to be insured, and ammo needs to be taxed higher than tobacco. Well, in many ways, Michael, if you go to places like Austria, you will see that if you have a gun, you actually have to keep it at the police department. They store all of the weapons, and then if you want to go use it, you have to go there and you have to give an explanation as to why. Apparently, unlike America, where because is a valid reason, over there you have to articulate it a little bit more.
That's interesting. The Point, I was in the Grosse Pointe Shores Police Department not many years ago, 10 years ago at least, doing the police reports for this little website that I worked for. And a guy came in and he asked for his shotgun back because it was coming up on hunting season, or his deer rifle. I forget what it was. But the police goes, okay, sure. And they go back to the gun safe, and got it out and gave it to him. And I said, the guy keeps his gun here at the police department? He said, well, it's a service that we offer for, residents. He goes, he was going through a divorce. So he thought it was a good idea to lock up the firepower because
very good idea.
It probably was good. That was probably a very smart thing for him to do. But I just thought, man, that's.
I could see here in America them doing that, where somebody's like, I'm depressed and I'm feeling a little delusional, and what do you want the gun for? Well, a mass shooting. Okay, hold on a minute, I'll get you a gun for you.
Yeah, we're gonna red flag myself. So yeah.
Right. Yeah.
All right, Allan, I think you have a funny video to show before we go into the last segment.
A funny video. Let's see
with
here.
Stephen Colbert.
Okay, let me get that one. Colbert. I'm sorry. Well, we did the zucchini one, right?
No, I don't think we did.
No.
Oh, okay.
Which is why tonight's top story is an Ontario man's 8-foot zucchini might be the longest in the world. Which, of course, raises the question, is that a world record in your garden, or are you just happy zucchini?
How did the eggplant become the default emoji for the male penis when you can grow an 8-foot zucchini? I'm kind of flabbergasted. That's amazing. That 8 feet? That's huge.
Right.
Okay, from Nancy, here to my door.
That's what she said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew somebody was going to say it, Alan. I knew if I kept quiet, somebody would say that. Thank you.
Nancy, if you were to cross the pond, what would you call a zucchini and what would you call an eggplant? Over to merry old England. Oh, Barb knows.
I know this one.
What
It's
is
a
it?
courgette and an aubergine.
That's right.
I was going to
courgette
say
is a
aubergine.
zucchini.
I didn't. I know that's France, but I didn't know if that was also England. What was the zucchini?
Courgette.
Courgette. Okay.
Yes. It's kind of like a very small corgi dog, so courgette. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So there you go.
The world's most boring vegetable, in my opinion. There's just not much you can do with the zucchini. So
Fritters.
Well.
Yeah.
Apparently, according to Colbert, plenty. But
Yeah.
I see your point. All right, Alan. Do we have an ad at the end here?
Yeah, let's do one more.
Okay.
Thanks, Charles, for letting me use your gardening supplies. I'll make sure I put it back in the garage. Man, tending to that lawn is a lot of work.
Tell you the truth, Jim, I'm more concerned about keeping this house.
What's going on?
Well, you know, Sarah lost her job 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Since we lost that income, the bills have been piling up, and we're so far behind. I don't want to lose the house because of back taxes. I don't know what to do.
I understand. The same thing happened to my sister and her husband when he lost his job. Do you know that the Wayne County Treasurer has plans and programs to help people stay in their homes?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, go to www.treasure.waynecounty.com to see if you qualify.
What's that site again?
www.treasure.waynecounty.com.
Got it.
Now,
Okay,
now that
Alan,
I've seen that ad once, I'm noticing all the details in it. Like he has a television behind him that plays a crackling fire.
That's my favorite part.
It's like, wow. Okay, go ahead.
That's well framed. Yes, Alan. To the
ready?
last segment. Yep.
Downtown Detroit, Robert Wells, Schmuck of the week.
All right. And by the way,
It never gets old.
any of you who may not have one, or you hear somebody else's and you get schmuck envy, I've got some backups for you. So there you go.
By the way, Robert, the person who does that show, gave us a shout out earlier on the show. So.
Oh, excellent. Okay. All right. Fish.
This was one of the easier schmucks of the week for me. Mine is football coach Tommy Tuberville, who somehow managed to become Senator Tommy Tuberville. And I can tell you this, if he was as a football coach like he is as a senator, Auburn would have gone 0-10 every single year. Today, I actually was in the gym, and he was on the television defending himself against all of the backlash that he's getting. And keep in mind, who's he getting it from? He's not getting it from the Democrats. Lindsey Graham, this guy Sullivan, Ernst from Iowa or somewhere in the Midwest. It's beyond my comprehension. I don't want to say what is he thinking, because maybe what we really need to ask is he thinking about anything? And how much longer is this crazy guy going to do this stuff? 61 times yesterday, I think they had 61 different people to confirm. And when I was reading what he was saying, he literally sounded like he was defending himself for calling an end around instead of a quarterback sneak when he was still a football coach. So Tommy, you're my man. And we also have to make the co-schmucks the people who elected this son of a bitch. Who the hell would vote for this guy?
People in Alabama.
Was one thing. At least he lost.
Yeah.
Makes Herschel Walker look like a Rhodes Scholar, for God's sake.
This is just another example of people who are willing to bring down the government for their own agenda.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
they don't care about the country. They don't care about the people.
They're nihilists.
Consequences. We until today we had vacancies on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. General Eric Smith had suffered a health scare, a heart attack, and was hospitalized because he had to undertake more work because of the absence of confirmations and people to do that. Steve, I've got to ask you the question. Do you think that he finally relented because that alpha male apex predator of the Senate, Lindsey Graham, shamed him?
Yeah, if Lindsey were after me, I'd be scared shitless.
Okay.
He confronted me on the playground. My God, I wouldn't even get my hands up. I'd just, okay, Linz, whatever you say, man. Tough guy like you.
That's what I thought, because, I mean, he'd make me quiver. Barb.
It's my best friend in the whole world, Kristina Karamo. She never stops. She never relents. She never learns a single thing. It gives me life in this horrible world. Something I can count on is her clownishness.
I always think of her as being that bull that, like in the Bugs Bunny cartoon, that puts chalk, a pool chalk on the horns before they're going to go straight into the wall. Yeah.
It's interesting how not so long ago these fringe people were just that, fringe people, and now they are the mainstream of the party. It's really, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert. It's just all the nut jobs out there, and it's just crazy.
Okay. Joel,
you're muted, Joel. Joel, you're muted.
Joel, he's not muted.
There you go.
Joel.
Okay, I am so sorry.
Yep.
It's going to be Mike Johnson. I read today that he wants to stop Social Security. I'm 64, about to hit that big 65 and 66. Don't touch my fucking Social Security. I put into that money. We all did. So for selfish reasons, go fuck himself. He's a schmuck. And the 220 Republicans who all supported him in lockstep.
Yep.
Biggest schmucks.
Yeah.
The biggest puck.
Well, don't worry, Joel, because that money is going to be used in the to fund the Ukraine standalone bill. So it's going to go to a good cause.
And also, it's crazy. Go ahead.
And by the way, this is also the same Mike Johnson, House Speaker, who blamed the fall of the Roman Empire on homosexual behavior.
The Romans loved being gay. They were just it was like ordering onion rings instead of French fries once in a while,
But Nancy, in the immortal words of Mean Girls, at a certain point, obviously they got to be too gay to function.
Yeah.
And that's what brought down the Roman Empire. So there you go. Bill, who's your schmuck?
My schmuck of the week is a member of the Netanyahu's cabinet, the Minister of Finance and a Minister of the Defense, Mr. Smotrich. This warm-hearted fellow advocates a shoot-to-kill policy against children who are throwing stones against the Israeli army. I can't make this stuff up. He also tweeted his support for the segregation of Arab and Jewish women in hospitals because no Jewish woman, including my wife, would want to lie down next to someone who just gave birth to a baby who might want to kill our children in 20 years. Talk about advocate for peace. It gets worse, guys. He stated to Arab lawmakers, "You are here by mistake. It's a mistake that Ben-Gurion didn't finish the job and throw you out in 1948. Sound like anybody we know from the 40s? And in March, just this recently in 2023, indicated that the Palestinian people do not exist. They have no history or culture. Continuing on to say there is no such thing as a Palestinian people. There's a guy who we want in charge of Israel to try and solve the Israeli-Palestinian crisis.
Besides that, these guys are criminals in it. Literally. It's Smotrich is one of the people who really turned the heat up on the kettle. Really has really fucked up things in the West Bank. You see settlers who are getting free reign, attacking, lighting cars on fire there. It's just, turned up the heat there. These people are just so horrible for what is needed at this time. They are the gasoline throwing instead of putting out the fire, they're throwing more gasoline on.
Yeah, let's not make any mistake about this. Their solution is to drive the Palestinians off the West Bank and annex it, and therefore make it a Jordanian issue, an Egyptian issue, eliminate any possibilities that the Palestinian people exist. And
he's going to go.
Like I said, half my family's Jewish. There is no question in my mind that people like him are doing exactly what the Nazis did in prior to the Holocaust and during the Holocaust. They're dehumanizing the Palestinians as a justification for eliminating them.
That's the same thing that Hamas is doing, to justify the liquidation of Israel. It's these philosophies of hate, that are
fire
really
and fire, gasoline,
right. We just
and
have
oil,
to
and
how we overcome our own, imperfections, the human condition, which is easy to rage, easy to get angry. We may not be as evolved as we would like to be, and we may be continuing to destroy ourselves for a long, long time.
Well, it's these leaders are all reactions to people's frustrations. I mean, Hamas is a reaction to a crooked Palestinian Authority that they saw as weak, ineffective in dealing with their rights. You see Netanyahu, after Ehud Barak offered, I think in 2000, offered 95% of what Arafat was asking for in the West Bank, and supposedly 100% in Gaza. Arafat turned his back on it. There was the Intifada. And so as a result, people in Israel were like, we need somebody who's just going to kick ass. They turned to Netanyahu, who's just bad. And so we get with Netanyahu and we get with Hamas, and we have this horrible, horrible situation. That's my read on it. Whatever you talk about in the Middle East, you can always go a step backward and add more information to change the narrative. I mean, there's so much history there, and I don't say that narrative is the absolute, but so.
By the way, Netanyahu's son Yair is apparently sitting out the war in Miami, taking a page out of The Godfather, where Fredo was sent to Las Vegas to be, under the protection of the Molinari brothers with Mo Green over there. So everything comes back to the God. You were saying, Alan, that you can always go back in history. I say 1972 and The Godfather. All right, Nancy.
Okay. First of all, we just put a pin in something we have not yet talked about, but I really want to talk about one of these days, which is Mike Johnson's adopted black son, who he adopted when the son was 14 and he was 30, and Johnson himself is 30. So I think and these people call Democrats groomers. I mean, go figure. But be that as it may, my schmucks I'm going amorphous this week. And I'm giving the Schmuckitude Award to all the people who next week are going to be bitching and moaning about daylight saving time yet again. Why can't we have daylight saving time all year? I was coming back from the pool on Thursday, and I realized that I was driving through more or less full dark, and there were kids walking to school. And I was thinking, if we went to year-round daylight saving time, those kids would be walking in even darker dark, and we would essentially be saying, hey, it's okay to run over a few kids on their way to school as long as we have a little sliver more daytime when these guys get out of work in the wintertime. So they're just going to bitch and complain, and I'm giving it to them. So there.
November already.
Huh?
It's November already.
I know.
It's November. Can you believe it?
Can you believe it's November? It's time for daylight saving time to go away. It's standard time. Bring back soon.
Can you believe it's already November?
Can you believe?
Can you believe the sun?
I missed Giuliani this round, though, Alan.
Don't encourage him.
Right.
I thought about that, and I thought.
All right.
It's the greatest photo.
It's time.
Oh my God.
We've been going for almost a minute and 10. Time for Steve to get back on the clock.
I'm surprised you didn't show that during the Colbert thing with the 8-foot zucchini, Alan. But anyway, okay. Alan, who's your schmuck?
8 foot there.
My schmuck is, and I hate to throw a little fuel on the fire here, but I am totally. I have no problem with people speaking out against the bombings in the Gaza and really speaking out for outrage, and I understand that. But Nasser Hussein, who's on the planning commission of the Hamtramck Planning Commission, who's running for city council.
Oh, that guy.
Posted something saying, was the Holocaust God's advanced punishment on the chosen people for the savagery they're committing today? And, obviously it's a nicer way of saying Hitler was right, and God saw a vision. And he goes on to talk about God doesn't operate within the confines of time. So God's like, I'm going to kill 6 million off just so in case. So, I mean, that kind of talk doesn't help. And Hamtramck, it kind of concerns me. It's a beautiful melting pot of Bangladeshi and Yemeni and whatever hipsters and progressives and all that. It's just a mix of and all other types of people there. And it concerns me that some of the stuff that's going on there, that it's gonna, change.
Just don't close the Yemen Cafe. So
yes, here. So this might hurt you, Barb, but I have to say it. My schmuck of the week is the Beatles, for releasing the last Beatles song, Now and Then. Vocals by John extracted from a cassette tape marked for Paul. AI technology helping better isolate John's voice with accompaniment from George on guitar from some previously recorded thing. And the surviving Beatles, it was produced by Paul and by George Martin's son, Giles. They should have just ended it with Let It Be. They should have let it be.
Yeah.
Is it not a good song?
Not a great tune.
It's not a great tune.
Yeah.
It's more the creep factor in exhuming dead people and having them.
And Paul did that before when he was on tour with singing with a hologram of John behind him. That didn't go well. But my real schmuck of the week.
Need the money.
But my real schmuck of the week is why they got universal health care in the UK. Paul's fine. So my real schmuck is TikTok influencer Bilal Hussein, who decided to get a bunch of white mice and then dyed them in the various colors of the Palestinian flag, green, red, and white, or I think the white he just left alone, and then let them loose in a Birmingham, UK McDonald's to protest the fact that an Israeli McDonald's had offered free meals to IDF soldiers. Of course, not really understanding corporate law, that the McDonald's in Israel was a franchise, as is the one in Birmingham. And the one in Birmingham is probably not owned by your favorite Jewish uncle, but your favorite Pakistani uncle, who now, of course, is having to deal with this. Luckily, Mr. Hussein was arrested. And also, I think on the good news is that the resident rats at the McDonald's took care of the other mice quite handily.
It's a happy deal.
Yep.
So yeah, Bilal Hussein, you're my schmuck of the week for that stunt that you pulled. Well, anyway, listen, thank you again for discussing difficult topics with both decorum, with respect, and with really admiration for one another. Love all you guys. Thank you, Joel Sklar. Thank you, Bill Seikaly. Thank you, Steve Fishman. Got the troika out of the way there. Thank you, Barb. Thank you, Nancy.
The dynamic duo was next.
Fishman's gone.
Whoa!
It's just gone. He's gone.
He's like Houdini.
Before Allan can even give the last word.
Yeah.
Drive home safely.
Thanks,
I gotta go
everybody.
give
Have
blood,
a great week.
so.
And don't forget to turn your clocks back tomorrow and get that extra hour of sleep.
Yeah. So
Have a great weekend.